What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's Filthiest Pitches of the Day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Join Ninja Nation. Be a part of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my Filthiest Pitches of the Day. I'm going to start with Kyle Bradish, who had 4 Ks in 8 innings, giving up 3 hits and no runs. Bradish had these absolute hammer curveballs and this nasty slider. And he faced Josiah Gray, who had 7 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 1 run, and had these 2-seamers, changeup, and cutters. George Kirby had 4 Ks in 6 scoreless innings. He had this elevated fastball, these 2-seamers, and slider. And he faced Christian Javier, who had 6 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs, and had these fastballs. Chase Anderson had 4 strikeouts in 5 scoreless innings. He got his Ks on these cutters and curveballs. Reed Detmers had 7 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up 1 run. Detmers had this fastball, this wicked slider, and these beautiful curveballs. Although one of these probably wasn't in the zone, but it still was pretty. He outdueled Cody Bradford, who had 3 Ks in 4 innings, giving up 5 runs, and had these changeups. Miles Michaelis had 5 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up 1 run. He picked up Ks on these sliders and 2-seamer, and he faced Adrian Hauser, who had 5 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 4 runs, and had this fastball at the knees. Lucas Giolito had 5 Ks in 3 1/3 innings, giving up 5 runs. Not a great outing, but he did have these nasty changeups. And he faced Hunter Green, who had 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up 7 runs. Green picked up Ks on his fastball and slider. In fact, he had 2 Expelliarmus sliders in 1 at-bat.
There goes the bat again. Come on.
I mentioned that Green is kind of a roller coaster, and this is the big drop in that roller coaster. I would love Green to consider adding a splitter. And here's my discussion with Dontrell Willis, Manny Ramirez, and Ben Verlander, where I discussed Hunter Green's roller coaster season and how he might go solving it.
The question is, and I open the floor to y'all, do you think that this is a long-term thing, that he can go fastball slider without really developing a changeup or a splitter or something else to keep him off? Because he has been, he's inconsistent. When he's on, he looks unhittable. He's great. But how do you...
Because I remember when I used to face Beck from the Marlins, that day that Beck didn't have that breaking pitch, it was like, okay, this guy, his breaking pitch is not working. We're just going to look fastball with him, and we're only going to do BP. We're taking BP off of him. So he needs to develop another pitch.
That was kind of my instinct, because you'll see him being very uneven. Like, there are times like today where he looks unhittable, and then there are other times where he's just not landing one of his pitches, and everybody's just keying off it, and he gets hit really hard. Since splitters have been kind of big, I was wondering, maybe he's not a great pronator, and maybe a splitter might be a good call for him.
I love split fingers as far as the pitch mix and the depth change and allowing the arm to just be as quick as it wants to be, and the hitter swinging over the top of the arm movement. I would, if he got a split finger with that straight fastball, it'd be like a ghost fork. It'd be like, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be able to cover it. They wouldn't be able to stay on the velocity and really cover that split finger like Maeda did to them last night.
A reminder, today is another FanDuel broadcast. We'll be doing the Braves-Cubs game, so be sure to get the FanDuel app and tune in. Zach Eflin had 4 strikeouts in 5 innings, giving up 3 runs. He had Ks on his curveball and sweeper. He faced Tanner Houck, who had 2 strikeouts in 3 innings, giving up 6 earned runs on 10 hits. Not a very strong outing for Houck. He did have this slider and this splitter that got the D helmet. Zack Greinke had 5 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 1 hit and no runs. He had these sliders and elevated diesel. But my favorite thing about Greinke's outing is he threw this 87-mile-an-hour fastball and an 88-mile-an-hour changeup in the same game. So all y'all that were complaining about Edward Cabrera's 96-mile-an-hour changeup being a changeup, what you gonna do with this? Just remember, it doesn't have to make sense if it's Zack Greinke. Greinke battled Reese Olson, who had 7 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 earned run. Olson looked really good again, picking up Ks with his fastball as well as his sliders, this one having 2,973 RPMs. And he had this slider, and with the ripper behind the plate, there was freaking blood everywhere. When John Tempain's behind the plate, if you go down looking, you go down looking. Justin Steele had 6 strikeouts in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He had these cutting fastballs and wicked sliders. He faced Bryce Elder, who really wasn't very good, with 2 strikeouts in 3 2/3 innings, giving up 5 runs. He did have this slider, And the Braves actually won the game, although in kind of a heartbreaking way. Seiya Suzuki is a great dude, and he dropped this ball. Even though I live in Atlanta, this kind of brought a tear to my eye. Although the animation from MLB cheered me up. Mitch Keller had 6 strikeouts in 6 innings, giving up 2 runs. He had this fastball for a sword, a cutter for a sword, and this dirty curveball. He faced Aaron Nola, who had 8 Ks in 6 2/3 innings, and had these sinkers and filthy knuckle curves. Kevin Gausman had 5 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up no runs and only 3 hits. He painted with his fastball and had these 6 splitters. Check out the movement on these. He faced Michael King, who continued to be on fire. King had 5 Ks in 6 scoreless innings, giving up only 1 hit. Really, his only issue were the 5 walks he gave up, but he did have this painted fastball, these wicked 2-seamers, and this sweeper that probably was a little low, but we'll give it to him. Okay, it was a lot low. Michael King has definitely been a bright spot in the Yankees season. Bailey Ober had 8 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 2 hits and no runs. He got Ks on his fastball and these changeups, and I thought his changeup looked really, really good. He faced Paul Blackburn, who had 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up 5 runs. Blackburn had this front door 2-seamer and this dirty curveball. Seth Lugo probably had the best overall outing of the day yesterday. He had 7 strikeouts in 8 2/3 scoreless innings. Just needed 1 out for that complete game shutout. He dominated with his fastballs and this 3,329 RPM curveball. My filthiest starting pitcher of the day was Bobby Miller. Miller had 9 strikeouts in 7 innings, giving up only 2 runs. He picked up Ks on these overpowering fastballs up to 99 miles an hour and picked up a sword on this elevated 98-mile-an-hour fastball. He also had these vicious sliders, and here's an overlay of his fastball and slider, and you can see what makes hitting against Miller so tough. Now on to my filthiest relievers. Alex Wood picked up 5 Ks in relief in 4 2/3 innings with his fastballs, paintish changeup, and this great behind-the-back play. Always remember, pitchers are athletes. Jose Alvarado had these vicious cutters. Dowry Moretta picked up a backwards K on this backwards slider. Not often you see a front door slider like that. Jordan Weems had this fastball and slider. Fernando Cruz had these nasty splitters. Tyler Holton had this curveball and changeup. Chris Paddock was back. I always love how he breathes into his glove like Frank Booth did in Blue Velvet with his gas mask. And Paddock's stuff looked pretty filthy. He had this changeup and fastballs that were up to 99 miles an hour, picking up Ks on this 97 and 98 mile an hour heater. Lucas Sims had this slider for a sword. Yunier Cano had these changeups and sliders. That first changeup was disgusting. In even bigger news for the Orioles, Felix Bautista threw a sim game yesterday. Man, I hope he comes back. Pierce Johnson had these filthy curveballs. Raisel Iglesias had these wicked sliders. Pete Fairbanks had these overpowering fastballs and nasty slider. Ryan Helsley had this 102-mile-an-hour diesel and these filthy sliders. And my filthiest reliever of the day yesterday was Ryan Pepiot, who was the bulk guy for the Dodgers and went 6 innings with 9 Ks, very nice, giving up only 1 run. The story of the game was Pepiot's changeup. He picked up 16 whiffs on his changeup, which was the most whiffs on a changeup by any pitcher this season other than Christopher Sanchez. Here's an overlay of Pepiot's fastball and changeup, and you can see why that changeup was so dominant. He's going to be a big piece of the Dodgers' rotation this postseason. And now, my Pitching Ninja moment of zen. Throughout the years, broadcasters have had some great baseball calls, but I'm not sure that anybody beats Brandon Gaudin. Listen to this masterpiece pulling off a perfectly timed wanking joke. Phrasing, Ninja, you could have said something other than pulling off.
So the Braves will go from Johnson to Hand, and the batter will be Mastroboni. That's probably a good thing Jeff Francoeur's in the other booth.
What is up, everybody? My picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to start off with Matt Waldron for 4 Ks or more, then take Emmett Sheehan for 5 Ks or more, and top it off with Brandon Pfaadt for 6 Ks or more. What was your picks of the day, Dave?